Good afternoon. My name is Cody Dunlap, and this is my EDL 853 Module 8 case study video. The title of the case study is Get This Child Out of My Room. So the child in question, his name is Carl, and he is the son of a recently divorced couple. He has a behavioral IEP, and his typical outbursts are through self-aggression, although it turns to aggression towards the teacher and other adults in the building as the story moves on. Mrs. Taylor is his teacher, and she has a good she had a good reputation with the old SPED teacher, but now it is a brand new special ed teacher, Mrs. Green. Mrs. Taylor would like Carl to just be completely removed from her classroom when he gets disruptive, and Mrs. Green is trying to set up an intervention plan that would just remove him for a short amount of time until he can be placed back inside the regular ed room. They're trying to get this IEP meeting set up, finally get a hold of both parents. The IEP meeting starts with a mom and dad showing hostility towards each other, but they finally both sign off on the changes to start this new intervention plan. I would throw in a side note, it's interesting the two different ways that both mom and dad want to solve the problem. Dad just wants to get back to work. He said, just tell me what I need to do and I got to go. Mom suggests giving, Ritalin to Carl, and she seems a little bit more involved, but still is at a loss of what to do. At the end of the meeting, though, Mrs. Taylor makes a kind of a backhanded remark at Mrs. Green, saying that the old special ed teacher would have just taken him out and removed him from the classroom instead of this new intervention plan, and Mrs. Green is kind of left to ask the question of, who's going to support me and who's going to help me out here. So again, the problem identification is, this classroom is having problems with a student that is showing aggression issues, and he's starting to, if not harm, but threaten the teacher and maybe even other classmates. He gets upset when people are even looking at him. The teacher and the SPED teacher are just not seeing eye to eye on what to do with this problem. The regular ed classroom teacher wants him taken out and completely removed from the room. And Mrs. Green is wanting to just take him out in certain periods of time until he can calm down. And again, Mrs. Green, the special ed teacher, is kind of left to wonder at the end, feeling like this is like she's not getting any backing on this intervention plan. So what I know, it's a rural area, Schuyler Elementary, and because of this, and this kind of goes into the plan now that Mrs. Green is feeling like she's not supported. They have to share personnel. They have to share, school nurses and psychs and OTs and PTs and all of these different school professional personnel. We also know that Carl is acting out in class, starting to be aggressive towards other students and adults. We know that this may possibly be stemming from what's going on at home, where there is marital problems between his parents, and they have recently divorced. Mrs. Taylor is not happy with the behavior that he is exhibiting. Mrs. Green wants to help, but she does not, to just completely remove him and isolate him for extended periods of time. We know that the IEP meeting was kind of hard to get scheduled, and in fact, something I did not add in the slides is that the superintendent, which is shared between buildings, was not able to be there, and the assistant superintendent, or basically the building principal, was the one that attended the meeting. And then obviously Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Green are not very cohesive with their ideas of how to solve this. What I need to know is if there were any times that Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Green could meet to collaborate. They talked about Mrs. Taylor, just basically coming into the room and saying, "Here, I need I need help," but there really just wasn't any collaboration. I wanted to know if that did take place. I wanted to know if there are any male figures that could help in the situation, and the study made mention of that to see, as a possible solution. Would a male role model, a positive male role model in his school life help him out? The case study also mentioned some therapy type services that Carl's older siblings were getting, and I'm wondering if there were any services that Carl would be available to, or that would be available for Carl. And then if there's any possible, any more supervision that could be possible at Schuyler Elementary. It just sounds like they're really thin, and finances are probably a huge deal there, but seeing if they could help out at all anymore with any other adults, that could help. So my plan of action: I would like to meet with Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Green. I'd like to put them together in a joint meeting, and we could hash this out. We could talk about this rather than just throw comments back and forth about disagreeing. I would like to talk with Mrs. Green separately, figure out the ins and outs of her intervention idea. An important thing, I'd like to sit down with Carl's parents and just ask them what their ideal school situation for their son is, and some goals and wishes that they would have maybe for him, instead of just do whatever you need to do to help Carl. What do they want out of this? Maybe work to get a male in the building to help out as a paraprofessional possibly. I'd like to sit down with Carl's class just to talk about behavior, what we're seeing, and how they can help in this situation. Again, I'm talking about that more supervision. Maybe that's a good thing to go to the Board of Education with, possibly. And then also visiting with schools on maybe a good time to get SPED teachers together to collaborate. I know Mrs. Green was, in separate occasions was talking about, feeling like she was kind of on an island and like she didn't have anybody to talk to. And so if there was a way that other teachers or her position in other buildings could find that maybe they could even meet online, whether it's Skype or Zoom or something, and collaborate on different scenarios that are going on in their buildings. So to implement this, I would need to schedule some meetings with faculty members, those ones involved, and also parents. Maybe if there was a room, if we were able to advertise for a SPED position, again, kind of angling towards a male position, if possible. And then interview if that, again, was necessary. I'd have to talk to Carl's class, probably talk to Carl individually as well, even though I'm sure in this process that he has been talked to by many adults and knows that what he's doing is disrespectful. Have to talk to the superintendent. Probably have to be some finance questions being asked if there was going to be a position. If there was any way to get supervision, added supervision in the room, and then lastly would be set up lines of communication for our special ed department teachers to talk with each other in whatever way or format that they could. So how I resolve the issues based on promoting the success, talk to the entire class of Carl's class about behavior and making it appropriate. Hopefully parents, even the ones that are not directly involved, would maybe see if, whether here or through communication, that they would kind of see how this whole process went down and just know that they are valued in the school. Teachers hopefully will feel supported and able to do their job to the best of their ability. If we get more supervision, obviously that would help the teachers as well and help support them. And then, obviously the SPED department is boosted, hopefully, through this experience. Things that I am thinking, feeling, valuing, and then issues that maybe are unresolved. So I am concerned about the relationship between regular ed teacher and special ed teacher. Also feeling kind of sad for, just the things that Carl has experienced in their house with the divorce situation. But I'm valuing involved and positive parents, those that we see and those that we wish to, help foster that in them. And then value effective communication, especially, in a district where you don't have anyone else around you that does your job, so you feel kind of on an island like Mrs. Green did, and so finding that communication. So issues that I identified, trying to figure out why Mrs. Taylor's not on board with the new intervention plan, trying to identify the reality of bringing more supervision into the building, and then figuring out how these relationships will hold up after this conflict has been resolved. So category 5 then, we will reflect in this. We'll talk about how I promoted the academic success of every student by enhancing instructional capacity. Again, we tried to rectify the behavior, and all kids now know about appropriate behavior. The teachers know that administration has their back and that they can focus on teaching because they know the administration will help them. And then hopefully the extra supervision comes to fruition. So again, academics is our focus. How do we promote the personal well-being of every student? Again, the class knows that they care because the adults are talking to them. And they know that they matter and that people care for them. Again, trying to look after everyone's well-being by maybe adding some supervision to help protect, especially in a negative situation such as we found at the beginning of this case study. And then also, helping out, again, showing my involvement as a building administrator by, setting in and giving input on IEP matters and the new intervention plan. And then how do I, as a school leader, enhance instructional capacity? Again, just providing that support so teachers can teach and parents can parent and students can learn. Hopefully communication was done so efficiently during this implementation. Again, working on that supervision so kids feel protected. Working to do this all for the kids. It's not for me as the building administrator. It is for the teachers. It is for people outside of myself. But truly, this is about the students' needs. Specifically in this case study, we're trying to get Carl and his class, on the right track, and their needs are truly first and foremost. And then, also just trying to get it done in a timely manner so we don't lose a bunch of instructional time, educational time, and just time where, whether this be months and months and years where kids are losing time to just be friends and the social aspect of school as well. And that is the end of my video. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to watch your case study videos as well.